Hey, haven't been on for a little while, but tonight I am in my new house and I'm so stoked. It's an awesome place. Energetically, it just totally flows, so I'm loving it. So tonight, guys, we're going to be talking about how to create balance with all the different kinds of diets that people are following. It can get really confusing, and I've health coached for over 8 years, actually 9 years now. And I've helped women through all different kinds of meal structures, and all of which I've recommended, I have tried myself. So one of the things that I use as my filter as to how I'm recommending is, if it achieves balance, and I mean on the plate, but also balance in lifestyle as well. So this week I noticed that quite a few people were asking me more questions to do with food and their macro composition. And so I thought, I'm going to cover that tonight and just, try and take the confusion out of eating well. So there are like 4 or 5, I think I've narrowed it down to 4, things that I found that are the most balanced way to eat and to have a mindset around health at the same time. And the first one should be a quarter of your plate should be protein, and a quarter of your plate carbohydrates, and half your plate vegetables. And so I've found that if I follow that kind of structure, then it helps me to figure out what I'm going to eat if I'm outside of my normal environment. So I travel a lot, and I'm constantly on the move and in the car, and so I'm hardly ever in a place where I can prep a meal. So making sure that if I am eating out and buying food, then I compose my plate to fit this requirement. Oh, thanks, France, that's awesome. Yep, 50% of your plate, definitely vegetables. And so if I'm out and about, then I try and make that fit. So if I ordered a quiche, for example, it would be at least quarter of that would be protein with the eggs. And then it's usually mixed in with some veggies, and the carbohydrate component is, it's reasonable. A quarter of its portion should be a carbohydrate. Now, it's not the very best scenario, but it's usually the best scenario that I can choose at the time, and it's enjoyable. So I think that if you have that kind of a filter, and make sure that in the 3 main meals that you eat in a day, at least 3, hey Sarah, in at least 3, you should try and get this makeup to make sure that you're getting the most balanced kind of nutrition. If you try cutting out your carbohydrates or going real high in fat, sure, there are benefits to that, but what I found, or in my experience, is that it became unsustainable. And that's another filter, a balance filter, that you can use to see if it's something that you actually be able to stick to. Part of making a way that you eat a lifestyle is making sure that what you do in the process is something that you love or that you enjoy. And if there are too many drawbacks to the process you're choosing, then you're probably not going to keep doing it, and so then it won't work. So you've got to make sure it's sustainable. All right, here's number 2. Make sure that 3 of your main meals are knife and fork meals per day. So what I mean by knife and fork meals, because some of you will use smoothies like I do in my meal prep, is that you've got to have that composition, that quarter protein, quarter carbohydrate, and 50% fat, or half your plate fat. Okay, number 3, enjoy your food but eat less. Okay, so I love food. I'm such a foodie, and Nick is a brilliant cook, and we eat out a lot, and socializing is really high on my values, and so a lot of the time I'm eating with other people. So if I feel too restricted about the way that I'm eating when I'm out and about, then it becomes unenjoyable, which means I'm probably not going to keep doing it. So this is another way that you can introduce balance, is making sure that you eat what you love, right? Eat as close to that macro split, that 25% carbohydrate, 25% protein, 50% vegetables. If you try and stick as much to that and also just eat delicious food, then how can you go wrong? So pizza is super popular in our household, because you can get a really good quality pizza base, and if it's a good quality pizza base, not too high in carbohydrate, right, then that's going to fit almost that requirement, which is close enough, right? And then cover it with protein, and then make sure you have tons of veggies on it. So if there's lots of filling you end up eating less of the base anyway, so it still fits within that macro component. And so it's just thinking about little hacks for making that work, but also enjoying your food and making sure that what you are eating is enjoyable most of the time. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4, okay, so the fats component, where does that fit in the like healthy plate split? Well, I don't usually concentrate on sharing fats with people other than, definitely fish oil for the omega-3s, and we're so short on that, and plant-based fats, right? So your olive oils, extra virgin olive oils and coconut oil. But what I find is that if you just cook with a good fat and use olive oil and dressings and just be conscious about your pouring, so say a tablespoon a portion, then you should be sweet. And that should take care of your fat component, because if you think about adding too many other fats in your meal, then it can get quite calorie heavy. And fats are really not so important. They're good for, I take that back, they're very, very important, but it's easy to get them just in eating delicious food, tends to be high in fats. Now, if you do eat very, very low fat, you can find it hard to stay satiated, because when you eat fat, and protein does the same thing, it hits the satiety centers of your brain. And so you'll end up eating less if there are fats in your food. If you focus on eating plant-based fats, then you'll get it right most of the time, but just stick with the olive oils and the coconut oil. Okay, so those would be the 4 things that I recommend you use as a filter when evaluating how you're going to eat, which kind of meal structure you're going to follow. And just remember that if you're perceiving that there are too many drawbacks to following whatever the structure, then it's not going to be sustainable. Therefore, you could not turn any part of that into a lifestyle. If you can see the drawbacks, but you can also see the benefits, and it's a good balance, then you know that it's probably worth giving a go, or at least giving a trial. Okay, so that's me for tonight, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday. If you guys are getting some value from this, then give me some love, give me some likes, let me know. In fact, even better, share, because I love doing what I love to do, and sharing the health message is a huge part of that. And so on that note, have a great night, and I'll see you next Thursday.